So let's look at the worst of the worst, starting with January. So they didn't waste any time at all in 2021. They hit us right out the door with a Microsoft Exchange server vulnerability. Now, this one was literally built into Exchange. So a lot of people had already migrated to 365 in cloud deployments, which is different, right? Other kinds of vulnerabilities. But this one was specific to attacking Exchange. And unfortunately, a lot of us rely on Exchange and have for many, many years because it's a good methodology for meeting our email needs, right? So Microsoft told security expert Brian Krebs that the company was made aware of 4 zero-day bugs in early January. Brian Krebs, by the way, is an amazing individual who does Krebs on security, really is helping with an awareness down to the root cause and sometimes who the hackers are. Just an amazing person who's been very helpful through the years.
So one of the things to note, as the slide says, it was started by the Chinese group Hafnium. The important thing about this vulnerability wasn't actually the vulnerability itself. The biggest thing that this vulnerability allowed you to do, pardon me, was to leave a backdoor on the Exchange server. So that what's called a web shell. So that you couldn't just break in now, you could break in the future, which is an amazing ability because, okay, so you updated. You still have the vulnerability. And indeed, we'll see in a few where that was actually used. What this allowed was for them to have a home on your server. And they did everywhere. This vulnerability spread faster than any other that we've seen. And one of the things, we use the term zero-day vulnerabilities or zero-day bugs. That's a weird term that's sort of a term of art. A zero-day vulnerability is one where the exploit is released before the company is aware that it is vulnerable. There are white hat hackers, there are black hat hackers, there are gray hat hackers. White hat hackers will find a vulnerability and allow the company time to fix it. They let the company know first. Zero-day bugs are ones where the vulnerability comes out on the same day as the exploit comes out, which means that by the time you know about it, you can be exploited. And that was the case in this. It went everywhere. It was fast. So many organizations got hit. Microsoft released a patch within 4 days. By the time it happened, by the time they released the patch, it was in some ways too late. I've seen estimates of upwards of, well, this is 30,000 were impacted initially, in total of over 75,000 machines with web shells. In other words, where the bad guys could break in later.
Yeah, so if you patched after they have web shell, they still have web shell. So it's bad. The other side there too is to point out this is from an APT group, an Advanced Persistent Threat Group, which in this case was sponsored by the Chinese government, right? That's where they come from, that's where they're there. Hafnium is one of the worst ones. So they were using this to attack, and unfortunately, 23% of their victims, targets, were government and military. So we count as part of that, right, as part of public safety.